Okay, so we have the assignment that's due today. The assignment is on why the North won, right? And it has the colored sections to it. Let's review over this really quick, okay? I'm going to give you a spoiler alert here. By my account, I think the North wins every category, right? I think we've been laying this out pretty clearly that the North, it was just a crushing victory, right? Like the South wasn't really ever going to win, really hardly ever at all. And so let's go through these categories real quick, all right? So our first category is red, right? Pull up your assignment if you don't have it up already. Okay, so first category is red. What's the red category?
Politics and military.
Politics and military. Okay. All right, Nika, give me your first Northern advantage in this category.
The Northerners had a way bigger military than the South.
Way bigger. Military is like 3 times larger. Okay, that kind of feels like the assignment's done at that point, right? It kind of feels like, well, assignment's over, right? But your teacher's making you put more in here, so let's put some more in here. All right, Shiva, give me another one.
The North, they had like a clear leader because he had just been elected.
Okay.
And
the chain of command is what you're looking for. So the chain of command is clear, right? All right, go Eric. Give me another.
The North has control over like the entire Navy.
Okay, the North has a Navy. The South has basically no Navy, essentially, right? Okay, give me another, Nika.
My other one was going to be that they had a stable government and everything already laid out.
Okay. A stable government that's already exists and knows what it's doing, right? Where the South is just trying to figure out, where the pencils are, right? Okay, what else? Either Shiva or Eric, do you guys have another advantage of the North?
I do not.
Okay. All right. Do we have any advantages in the South? Give me an advantage, a Southern advantage.
I wrote that Robert E. Lee and Jackson, they were like big brain, but not big brained enough to win.
Okay. So the South does have a lot of very talented leaders. They do have a lot of very talented generals. That is true. Stonewall Jackson and Robert E. Lee are talented, very talented tactical generals. That is true. Okay. All right. What else? Give me another Southern advantage.
Most of the military colleges were in the South.
Okay. That's kind of an advantage, kind of. The war is going to be over before any of those colleges can graduate any classes, so it's like not really an advantage, but you're right. They do have a lot of military colleges. That is true, right? Unfortunately for the South, those military colleges were producing generals, producing, officers that are all up and down the country, from Maine to Florida, from North Carolina to California. So, so it's in a long enough timeline, maybe that would be a better advantage. But in this case, the war is over in 4 years. So there you go. All right, let's move to the next category. What's the next category, Eric?
It's culture and tradition.
Good. All right, Eric, start us off. Give me a Northern advantage.
Okay. Well, the reason of the war was mostly slavery. So in the North, they had free blacks who were actually willing to fight for them.
Okay. All right. That's good. Give me another one, Shiva.
Well, I kind of put what Eric put too, and then I had a con. So.
Okay. Give me another advantage for the North, Nika.
I'm not quite sure what to say here because it's kind of the same stuff already that they put, but.
Okay. What about, or do you have an advantage for the South at all?
I have a slight one for the South.
Okay.
I read that the South, like altogether, had a lot of the same culture since most of it just revolved around slavery. So they were more united like that, whereas the North was a little more diverse.
Yeah. Okay. I could buy that. Maybe that's culturally unified. I could buy that argument. Yeah. All right. Do we have anything else to put on the Southern side? No. Shivani, what was the other thing you had that you were going to say?
I said that they were less unified because of mainly Anika's reason, because slavery was like their livelihood in the South. and it wasn't really that big of a thing in the North.
Okay, so you're saying that the North is less unified than the South? Okay, I'm not sure.
In
The
that,
North-
in that kind of.
I think like what I would say with that is that they weren't less unified. They're still very unified against it, but in regards to like what cultural and like cultures and traditions that they all had that unified them, I would say that they're a lot more different, but still their main cause was like abolishing slavery.
Yeah.
So that unified them.
So I think that we need to, if we're going to say that the unity of the South is an advantage, then I think we also need to look at what unity of the North looks like, right? Because the North at this point has already existed for 70 years, right? The 70 years, that's 80 years, right? That the country has already existed for this amount of time, right? The country already is unified in language and religion and history, right? We're the land of George Washington and the land of Thomas Jefferson, and we're the land of you know, the home of the free and the land of the brave and manifest destiny and sea to shining sea, and we didn't kill all these Indians for us not to be unified, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like the United States it has a cultural identity that is valuable, that is salient, that like exists as a real aspect of the people's brains, right? Like, I think that matters. I think that matters because they're unified under a flag and under an anthem and under a story and under a mythology and under a, you know, like all of that matters. And so the North is unified in that regard. The North does have a lot of immigrants. It does have more diversity. It does have, you know, other things that contribute to disunity, right? But I would argue that the unity is more important. That it is. I think it is more important, right? To a degree, the United States today is disunified, right? Like we can find things that like Californians and Texans and New Yorkers all disagree about, right? But if we make a list of everything they do agree about and then a list of everything they disagree about, I think you will find that Californians and Texans agree about like, you know, 900 things and they disagree about 300. Right? Okay, let's go to the next category. Shivani, what's our next category?
Science and technology.
All right, the yellow category. All right, Shiva, start us off. Give me a northern advantage.
The North had all the factories, meaning the soldiers were clothed and they had functioning firearms.
Okay, I put the factories into the green category.
Yeah, I did that for both.
Yeah, I feel it goes more into the green category. Let's save that for green. Okay, what else can we put in there, Balakrishnan? In the yellow category.
I would just say that because of the industry being better, there's more manufacturing and more technology to create stuff. That's what I would say. I know that kind of goes into labor, but
well, yeah, and the green and the yellow are kind of merging together in some
at this
regards.
point time period.
Yeah, they're kind of merging together. Okay. So, what else can you say, Eric?
I said that the North had a more developed railroad system.
There we go.
So-
I think this is good. Again, that it could be a green one, right? Really, as long as we have it captured in either yellow or green, I can buy it for you, right? But more advanced railroad system, yes. They also have more weapons factories. They also have more weapons designers. They also have more inventors, right? They also have a lot more advanced like ammunition and weapon styles. Like there's a lot of that stuff, right? This goes as, do we have any advantages for the South in science and technology? Some students today in class cited the submarine. The South does get the first submarine. It doesn't really work very well. It's more of kind of like a, you know, it's more kind of just like a little trivia bit. It was basically just like an oval made out of wood and had like a dude on a bike and he was like pedaling in the middle and it would like, and it would pop up and then he would like pop up to the top and he'd like look around and then go back under and then he'd pedal his bike and then get up right next to the ship and he'd like put a little drill, he'd like drill a hole into the ship and then he would like pedal away really fast and then the ship would sink because that's a hole. Right? As far as I remember, I may be wrong, but if I remember correctly, the South had a submarine that attacked a ship. So, you can put that in the science and technology category if you want, but some of the students also tried to say that the cotton gin was the invention of the South that was, propelling the economy and, keeping the economy going. I could buy that, I guess. All right, let's go to the green category. The green category, which is our industry and labor category. This is one of our big ones, right? This is one of our big ones. Okay, so Eric, start us off.
Factories again. Oh, we already said that.
That the North has a much, much larger factory output. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, much, much larger. Can either any of you guys give me some numbers on that? What does that factory output look like? Some of the students today came up with a figure that they were saying that for every gun that the South produced, the North produced 16. That feels about right. If you're going to say that the North has 16 times the industry, that feels about right. Feels about right. Okay, so you can rough that in, put in a rough there. I would say it's at least 10 times bigger. But it's not just guns. What else is it?
Like clothing.
It's clothes, it's boots, it's buttons, it's like bugles, it's guns, it's bullets, it's carts, it's horses, it's everything, right? The North has 10 times as much stuff as the South, right? It's like bandages, it's everything. Okay, what else can we say? Either Shiva, you go. What else?
I don't know if this fits, but I said that they could trade easier with Europe for whatever they needed.
Sure. Yeah, because they control the sea lanes. So they can trade with Europe. Okay, good. What else? What else, Anika?
I don't know like where this fits, but the South's labor was their slave labor versus the North had a lot more just had like jobs and people working in them. So I'm pretty sure I wouldn't say it's an advantage for the South because that's what's causing the whole war. But
so the advantage for the North is that free labor is more productive and free labor wants to be there, right? Mm-hmm. The South is going to lose their labor the whole way. You can put it under the Southern category, but it's definitely a disadvantage, right? If your labor is unwilling, then as soon as they see the possibility of freedom, they're gone, right? So I would put that as a disadvantage on the South side. Absolutely. I think that's absolutely needs to be there, right? What else? What about food production? Okay, you need to have something in here about food production. The North is producing somewhere around 10 times as much food as the South. So the South has more farms, but what's the problem? What are they growing?
Cash crops.
Cotton, right? You can't eat cotton, right? The North is growing wheat and corn and watermelons and Brussels sprouts and all the other things you want to grow, right? The North is growing all that food and cows and dairy and all sorts of stuff, right? The South is growing cotton, right? So the South actually has more farmland, but the farmland is like 80 or 90% dedicated to cotton. So the South is going to be facing starvation almost instantly in this war, almost instantly, especially after the North cuts off their access to the ocean, so they can't even get fish. Yeah. Okay. Next category. What's our next category? Blue. All right, our blue category. This is where you also could have put your slaves, Anika, your slave. It could have been in this category too. All right, what else? Okay, what do we got? Shiva, you start us off.
I think this is what Anika said, but I said that freed and enslaved people they had the choice to fight for the Union, and most of them did fight for the Union.
Okay. All right. So you're putting that as an advantage for the North?
Yes.
Okay. Advantage for the North, that the North is going to keep getting an influx of new soldiers, right? Freed slaves. Okay. What else, Eric?
An advantage for the North that the North gets more immigrants.
Okay.
So,
I would put that in the people category in the bottom. right?
Okay.
But it's true. It is true. I would just put it in that category. It is true. The North is getting way more advantages, right? There are way more immigrants, way more immigrants coming in. No immigrants are coming to the South, right? It's not like you're not going to have somebody sitting there in Europe going like, I want to come to America down where the slaves are, right? like that's not how the song goes, right? They're coming to America, and where are they going? They're going to New York, right? New York is receiving more than half of the immigrants, right? New York is receiving, Boston's receiving some, Philadelphia's receiving some, but New York, I mean, come on now. New York is where all the immigrants are going. Okay, so that's good. I would put that in the last category. I think that it fits better down there. I think that you guys are missing the biggest one in the blue category. What's the biggest advantage for the North? It's not something you can quantify, really. The North is fighting for justice, right? The South is sitting here trying to defend evil, right? If we're going to accept that slavery is an evil, right? The South is defending evil. At a certain point, soldiers have to ask themselves, do I really want to die for this? Right? And in the North, it's a lot easier to say yes. Okay. All right. What's our last category? Purple? Is it, or the last of the main categories? Purple? It's the third to last, right? We have purple, brown, and gray, right? All right, so give me purple. All right, Anika, start us off. This is the category that students seem to have the hardest time with.
Okay, so in the South, they had a lot more like family and traditions, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know how much that actually unifies them for.
You're saying that the traditional role of women unifies the South?
No.
Oh.
I don't know how it does that.
Oh.
Well, I don't know. You should come back to me.
Okay. What else do we think? Eric, what do you got in this category, purple category? Oh, sorry. We'll go Eric and then Shiva.
Okay. So I have a pro for the North that since the culture was less focused on traditional family structures, more women would be likely to go out and help the soldiers.
Okay. More women who are willing to help. Okay. What else, Shiva?
I said when the men would go do the manly stuff, like fighting, sarcasm, and women would like take over the factories and like the family and nurse the wounded and do basically everything but be soldiers.
Okay. So yeah, you're absolutely correct. We have women to work the factories. We have women that work the factories. We already have women in the factories. We already have women in the like textiles factories making uniforms and stuff like that. So we already have a larger portion of the workforce. The North just has more women, has like 3 times as many women, has 3 times as many people, right? And half of the people are women. And so the North has more women, and those women are there. I would say also the North doesn't have the tradition. And so the Northern women are more likely to be educated. They're more likely to know how to read. They're more likely to know how to do math. They're more likely to be able to help in a way that is more sophisticated. I think the North also has the advantage of some very specific women, namely Clara Barton. Clara Barton is a name that you should get. Clara Barton, she's a really good example of some of these Northern women that are an advantage. Clara Barton is going to become famous for founding the Red Cross. She's the founder of the Red Cross, and she trained under Florence Nightingale in England, and Florence Nightingale is the founder of modern nursing, right? And so Clara Barton learns how to be a nurse. She comes back to the United States, and she brings with her this radical idea that doctors and nurses should wash their hands before they treat people. It's a pretty extreme idea, and it may seem far-fetched right now, but I'm going to let you know that it's an idea that's going to catch on. Yeah, it's an idea that's going to catch on. And so Clara Barton doesn't end up getting like a Medal of Freedom or a Medal of Honor or anything like that, but I think maybe she should, because I think washing your hands probably saved more people than bullets did. Right? She also like professionalizes the nursing corps. And so the northern nurses are better. Like they know how to do math and they know how to like read and they know how to like do more advanced reasoning and stuff. And so the northern nurses are just better, right? And Clara Barton is not alone, but she's one of the really good examples, okay? So I think that that's a big advantage for the North. People tell me all the time that women aren't involved in the war, and I would point to them to the purple category, that women are A, running the factories, and B, a more advanced nursing corps is going to save a lot more people than more bullets will. Right? Okay. All right. Brown category, our geography category. It's brown because of dirt, right? Yeah.
Oh,
Right. Eric's like, oh, Eric didn't get it. I know Eric. Eric is used to thinking about dirt as being purple. And Eric, in this case, the dirt is brown. All right, Anika, start us off.
The North had a lot more established routes and railroads that were helpful for getting places.
Okay, and canals. I would put canals in there too. You
So
could have
any
canals.
transportation.
They could be in the green category too. Canals could be in the green category. It could be either one as long as you have it somewhere. Okay, what else? Shiva, start. Give me another one.
Can I do a con of the South?
Sure.
Okay, so they were divided by the Mississippi, which maybe led to miscommunication, possibly.
It could be. It definitely becomes a real problem when Grant takes over the Mississippi River. That definitely becomes a problem. So I could buy that. I could see that, right? I could see that as an advantage. They oftentimes say with the South has the advantage that the Mississippi allows for ease of travel. The problem is that the North takes over the Mississippi really early, right? Like within the first year. And so that advantage is gone pretty quick, right? So, it's an advantage.
Kind of like they have like so much coastline, but then the North just blocks it.
Exactly, right? A big coastline seems like an advantage, but the North blocks it off pretty quickly and it's not really an advantage for very long. Yeah. I think the disadvantage for the South also, a disadvantage is that the South has areas more prone to malaria, right? Because they're dealing with the swamps. So they're more prone to like swamp diseases and malaria and stuff like that. That's a problem, right? The biggest, what's the South's biggest advantage?
How big it is?
Kind of. The North is bigger. The North is way bigger, right? What's the best? The Southern advantage is they've got home field advantage, right? They know their way around. They know where the roads are. They know where the stuff is. Like they got home field advantage, right? It's always easier to fight a defensive war, and the South is fighting a defensive war, right? So that's an advantage. That's a legit advantage, right? I think the other advantage that the North has is that the entire war takes place in the South. And so the northern cities are not destroyed. That's a pretty sweet deal, right? By the end of that war, New York is doing just fine. Boston's just fine. Philadelphia is just fine. Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Chicago, St. Louis, right? All those cities are doing just fine. Even Washington, D.C. is doing fine, and it was a battlefield, right? But the southern cities are like burned to the ground, right? In the case of Atlanta, literally burned to the ground, right? Okay. All right. Last category, our people category. What do we got here?
I'm in class.
Eric?
The population of the North is way more than the South.
Yeah, 3 times as many people. Okay. This is also where I think the immigrants need to go. I think the immigrants need to go in here, right? That the North has just ton boat after boat after boat after boat of immigrants coming in, right? What else? Do we have any other advantages in this one? Nika, Shivani, either of you guys? No? All right. I think that's pretty.
What Eric put.
Okay, that's fine. I think that's pretty good. Again, I think that it needs to be clear here that the North is winning in basically every category, right? The North is winning in basically every category. Like People will oftentimes, they'll be like, oh, you teach history? Oh yeah, I love history. What would happen if the South won? And my answer is always like, the South couldn't win, right? And they're like, oh, well, what if they did? And I'm like, they couldn't, right? My answer is always like, they couldn't have won. And they say, well, we'll just pretend like the South had, more people. Okay, then, like, the problem is that in order for you to get the South to win, you have to like flip like 4 or 5 of these categories. It's not just to say maybe Robert E. Lee was just a better soldier, right? That's not enough. You got to flip like 3 or 4 of these categories in order for the South to even have a fighting chance at all. Fair enough? Okay. All right, so let's move into our stuff now. I want to live in America. You guys know where that's from? That song? West Side Story. I want to live in America. I want to live in America. All right. Okay, so Appomattox. We did Appomattox, right? Yes. Okay. All
It was
right.
very brief though.
Well, there's not much to it. It's just Appomattox is important in that it's the end of the war, right? And so oftentimes Appomattox will be used as a vocab word that means end of the war, right? That's really all it comes down to. It's not that important of a battle. The South surrenders and the North is occupying the South. Okay, so let's go to the assassination. Look at these dates. Appomattox is in early April. The assassination is just a couple of days later. All right. Lincoln is going to go on a date night, and it's going to turn out really bad. He's going to have one of the worst date nights in the American history. So, Abraham Lincoln is assassinated by this man here named John Wilkes Booth. John Wilkes Booth. John Wilkes Booth was an actor. He's from Virginia, and he's an actor. It's important to the story that he's an actor. He did not fight in the Civil War, but he was definitely sympathetic to the Civil War. By the time the Civil War comes to an end, Booth and a bunch of his friends, they get together, and these guys were deeply racist people, right? They get together and they decide that they're going to assassinate 1, 2, 3, 4 people. They're going to assassinate 4 people, okay? They're going to assassinate Lincoln. They're going to assassinate President Lincoln, Vice President Andrew Johnson, General Grant, and Secretary of State Seward, right? Their plan is a masterful plan of assassination where they're going to kill all 4 of these men at the same time. So Booth and his buddies get together and they all decide that they're going to go do this. And so what they do is they split up and they're going to go fight. The first guy goes after Vice President Andrew Johnson and he chickens out and he runs away. Wah, wah. All right, chickens out and runs away. Second guy, this is all in the same night, right? Happening at the same time. The second guy goes after the Secretary of State, Seward. What's Seward? 1, I think. I forget. Anyway, it goes after Secretary of State Seward, and Seward's bodyguard catches him and shoots the guy and kills the guy, right? So his bodyguard saves him. The third guy goes after Grant. He gets a shot off on Grant, Grant grabs a cane and beats the guy down, takes his own gun from him and shoots him with his own gun. You know, because he's Grant, that's what you do. Right? Grant is like, no, F you. He's like, I didn't just win a giant civil war for some jackass to shoot me. Right? Grant's not playing around. So Grant shoots the dude with his own gun. The fourth one is Lincoln at the play. Lincoln's at the play with his wife, Mary Todd Lincoln, and his son Thaddeus, and Thaddeus had a date. I don't remember the date's name. All right. Now I told you Booth is an actor. It's important because this is happening at Ford's Theater. Booth acts at Ford's Theater, which means everybody knows who he is. They know who he is. He's just Johnny. He gets his mail at the theater, right? It wasn't normal. You didn't normally get your mail to your home at this time. And so he got his mail at the theater. He came and went to the theater all the time. Everyone knew who he was, including the security guards. And so they don't search him. They just wave him on in and they say, "Hey, Johnny, how you doing tonight?" And he walks right in. And he's able to walk all the way up to the balcony area. He pulls out his gun. He shoots Lincoln in the back of the head. Thaddeus jumps up to try to defend his dad, knocks the gun to the ground. Booth jumps over the balcony. That's the second story balcony. Jumps over the balcony, lands on the stage, breaking his leg. He turns to the crowd and he yells, "Sic semper tyrannis." And then he runs to the back on his broken leg. Okay, sic semper tyrannis. What does that mean? Look it up.
Something about tyranny.
Say what?
Something about tyranny.
Okay, look it up. Type it into your phone or something. Look it up real quick. What does it mean? You need to get the quote correctly. You need to get the quote correctly, and you need to also know its translation. It's Latin, right? So sic semper.
Thus always to tyrants.
Say it again.
Thus always to tyrants.
Good. In your notes, write down the Latin phrase, sic semper tyrannis, and then put in the English underneath it, thus always to tyrants. He yells that to the crowd as saying, whenever you see a tyrant, this is what you should do to them. Put a bullet in their head. Right? He runs into the back. Now, have any of you guys been in the play before? Have you guys performed in the play or anything like that? None of you guys are drama nerds?
I one time went backstage. That was it.
Okay. The backstage during a performance is kind of chaotic, isn't it? Right? It's pretty chaotic. There's a lot of stuff going on back there. There's like furniture and boxes and people and curtains and all sorts of stuff back there. It'd be pretty easy to get yourself lost unless you're an actor who works in the theater and knows what he's doing. He's able to weave his way through the back. He knows where he's going. He gets out. He meets up with a friend. The friend is on a carriage. They get away. They go hide out in a cabin in Virginia for a while. They're there for about 3 days before the army tracks them down. The army sets the cabin on fire and then shoots him. Okay, he's dead. Let's go back to this quote. Sic semper tyrannis. Eric, if I tell you the country over here is ruled by a tyrant, what does that leader do? Describe to me how do I know that the leader is a tyrant?
I mean, they oppress the people below.
Okay. So a tyrant oppresses people, right? What else? Shiva, Anika, either of you guys. What else? How do I know that a leader is a tyrant or not?
A tyrant doesn't let people make decisions at all. Like makes them all themselves.
All right. So a tyrant takes away freedom, oppresses people. What else?
It probably have like an unjust bias towards a group of people and maybe targets them.
Right. No justice. Right. Things are like revenge, personal, things are like that. Right. Okay. Does Abraham Lincoln match the definition of a tyrant?
Common sense says no, but racist Southerners probably say yes.
Yeah, by my mind, I would actually say Abraham Lincoln is our least tyrannical president, right? He's dedicated his entire professional life to ending slavery. He literally just fought a war to end slavery, right? Like, by my count, he is our least tyrannical president. Not only is he not taking the freedom away from people, he's expanding freedom to people, right? Why is Booth saying this? Why is Booth saying this? What does Booth mean?
I don't know if this is right, but does it have to do with like the Southern economy and how it was like in ruins basically after the war.
Yeah. Do you think that Booth is really sitting there worrying about the economic output of, like the Mississippi plantation economic output? Like, does that sound like something that's going through his head at this moment? Booth says that Lincoln is a tyrant.
Probably not.
Booth is saying that Lincoln is a tyrant because Lincoln is taking away Booth's freedom to do what?
Own a slave.
Own slaves. This is where we're going to get into this really strange kind of thing with the South. Southerners are going to view this as they lost a freedom. They lost the freedom to own slaves. And we need to be clear here. When we say own slaves, I mean that they have the freedom to beat people, to whip them, to break their bones, to rape them, to sell them, to, kill their children, to kill these people, to murder these people, right? By any definition of freedom, that is not a freedom, right? By any reasonable definition of freedom, it is not a freedom, right? I do not have the freedom to do that to you. And you don't have the freedom to do it to me, right? By any kind of like rational, like adult human definition of freedom, it just doesn't work. Okay. So this matters because we're very quickly moving into Reconstruction. Okay. Keep this with the assassination. This should all be like big number U, I think, right? Right? Is that right? The assassination is U because I think the war was all T. Is that correct? Andrew Johnson takes over. He's the 17th president. He's the 17th president, and he's generally regarded as one of our all-time worst presidents. He is almost always like in the bottom 2 or bottom 3, right? He's almost always in the bottom, one of the worst. And he is going to destroy Reconstruction. Andrew Johnson is going to be the primary person responsible for ensuring that Black people are not allowed to achieve equality after the war. Okay. He is a Southerner. He's a Southerner. He's from Tennessee. He's the only senator that did not resign during the Civil War. And so the party made Lincoln take him as his vice president as like a sign of unity, trying to take a Southerner, right? They can unify with a Southerner and a Northerner. Lincoln did not like Johnson. Lincoln did not trust Johnson.
So is Johnson like pro-slavery?
He's not pro-slavery, but he's also not pro-equality either, right? He is not pro-slavery. He's not pro-slavery, but he is not pro-equality. He does not believe that blacks and whites can be equal. More importantly, he's very sympathetic to the South, right? He's very sympathetic to the South. And so when the South starts doing some really bad stuff, he lets them. Okay. He's also pretty corrupt. He's pretty corrupt. He's going to be stealing money and stuff. He's going to become our first president to be impeached. Good job, buddy. He's our first president to be impeached. He's not removed from office by one vote that he paid off. Yep. So we've impeached 3 presidents. None of whom we removed from office. So we impeached Andrew Johnson, Bill Clinton, and Donald Trump, none of whom we removed from office. Yeah. So there we go. He's going to start the American tradition of not holding presidents accountable. Nicely done. Nicely done, buddy. The corruption of the government at this time period is pretty strong. Thanks a lot, Andrew Jackson. Stupid Andrew Jackson. All right. Johnson's going to be real bad. We're going to label him out. This leads us to big number V. V is going to be called Reconstruction. So Reconstruction is the period of time in American history from 1865 to 1877. It's a period of time from 1865 to 1877, and it's the rebuilding period after the Civil War. It's the period where you are reconstructing the South. Okay, where we say Reconstruction instead of rebuilding because rebuilding makes it sound like you're just building the same thing back again, right? Like your shed got blown over in the storm and so you're rebuilding the shed, right? This is not that. This is reconstruction. We are not going to rebuild Louisiana. We are going to reconstruct Louisiana into a different kind of place. Does that make sense to you guys? Right? That's why the word is reconstruction and not rebuilding, right? During this time period, the military is occupying the southern states, okay? The military is occupying the southern states. Southern states are going to be released at different time periods, but they are going to be released. Black people are voting. And for a moment here, a moment, it looks like the country might be getting something close to racial equality, right? That Black people are getting rights, and they're getting voting, and they're getting representation. For a moment, for a shining moment, it looks like the United States is going to get this. Spoiler alert, Reconstruction is going to end very badly. It's generally considered to be one of our greatest failures in American history. Okay, the end result of Reconstruction is going to be racial oppression, Jim Crow segregation. It's going to be another 100 years of racial oppression. Okay, Reconstruction is generally looked on as one of the greatest failures of American history. It's this moment where we really could have made it better. We really could have, and we dropped the ball. We really screwed it up. All right, so let me give you the one shining good thing, and then on Monday, I'll give you all the bad stuff. All right, so the one shining good thing, make it W, big number W. Big number W is the Reconstruction Amendments. Reconstruction Amendments. These are going to be the amendments to the Constitution, 13, 14, and 15. I'm going to come back and do the rest of this stuff. All right, 13th Amendment. All right, so the 13th Amendment is pretty easy. Eric, go ahead and read it for us.
Section 1. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States, or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Do I read Section 2?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay. Section 2. Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation.
Good. All right. The 13th Amendment of the Constitution abolishes slavery. You absolutely need to know these amendments. They are almost guaranteed to be on the test. Okay? So the 13th Amendment abolishes slavery. 13, no more slavery. Okay? That one's pretty easy. Pretty easy. The one thing that you need to understand here, the blue, these are all the states that ratified the amendment. How likely is it that Alabama chose to ratify this amendment? Not likely, okay? The southern states are passing these amendments basically with a gun to their head, okay? And in some cases, literally a gun to their head, because the military is occupying the state and the military is telling them they will vote for the amendment, okay? This is controversial about these three amendments because 13, 14, and 15 are all basically passed with a gun to their head. Okay? All right, 14th Amendment. We're coming back, don't worry. We'll come back and get that rest of that stuff. All right, Balakrishnan, go ahead and read it for us.
All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens in the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws.
Good. What does this one say?
It's saying that everybody who is a citizen of the United States shall be allowed to have due process of law. So the state can't take away any of their rights without due process of law.
Good. Who's a
and
citizen?
People born in the US or naturalized.
Good. In your notes, you need to make sure the 14th Amendment defines citizenship. It defines citizenship as anyone born in the US or naturalized to the United States. And it also says that all citizens are equal under the law. Okay. What is this overturning? This
Dred
amendment is, say it again?
Dred Scott.
Yep, absolutely correct. Make sure you put it in the notes so that future you remembers it. But yes, this is overturning Dred Scott and Amistad as well. Right? It's overturning Dred Scott, where Dred Scott said that Black people can't be citizens. Okay. All right. Now let's get to the 15th Amendment. 15th Amendment. Now the actual 15th Amendment is pretty long, right? The actual 15th Amendment is like 4 paragraphs long. I cut out most of it because most of that text you don't really need. Most of that text is about like, it's like the debts that the southern states had incurred, like how you're going to deal with those debts and stuff. Like it doesn't really affect anything today. It all has to do with like states that used to be in rebellion and how their debt is handled, right? But the first part of the 15th Amendment, Shivani, can you go ahead and read it for us?
Yeah. Section 1. The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude.
Good. That's by far and away the most important part of the 15th Amendment. What is it saying?
Anyone who's a citizen can vote.
All citizens
So,
vote,
yeah,
regardless of
everyone
race.
except women.
Now, let's deal with women. We're going to deal with women in just a sec. In your first thing, make sure 15th Amendment says anyone can vote, regardless of race or previous condition of servitude. Okay, so this is everyone can vote. Now, let's deal with women here. Up until the 15th Amendment, prior to the 15th Amendment, no part of the Constitution used a gendered word. Every part of the Constitution prior to the 15th Amendment had used peoples or persons, right? They had used these. They had used words like that. The 15th Amendment uses the word he. Later in the amendment, not on the part that's on my slide, but later in the amendment, the 15th Amendment uses the word he, and it's not even in an important part of the amendment. It's like in an amendment, it's like in part of the amendment further down, it doesn't even matter. It's like not part of the amendment that matters, okay? This is going to be very controversial because Susan B. Anthony is going to oppose the 15th Amendment, right? Susan B. Anthony opposes it. You need to be aware of this controversy. So Susan B. Anthony is going to oppose this. Susan B. Anthony is the #1 leader of Susan B. Anthony right here. Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton are both going to oppose the amendment, and they are the leaders of the women's suffrage movement this time, right? They're trying to get women the right to vote. The argument that Susan B. Anthony is going to make is that the Constitution never uses the word he or she. It doesn't use a gendered word. And Susan B. Anthony will say, persons born in the United States are citizens. I'm a citizen. I was born in the United States, therefore I'm a citizen. Persons who are citizens are unified under the law. I'm a person, therefore I'm unified under the law. Persons born in the United States who are citizens are also get the right to vote, therefore I get the right to vote. Right? Susan B. Anthony is making this argument, I'm a person, therefore I get to vote. Right? She also cites the 9th Amendment that says anything that's not made explicitly illegal is legal. Right? That's where you have the right to eat ice cream. Right? The Constitution does not give you the right to eat ice cream, except the 9th Amendment says anything that's not illegal is legal. Right? Susan B. Anthony says, you guys did not write a law about women not voting, therefore it's legal, right? She's making this argument and she votes. She votes not once, not twice, but thrice. She votes 3 different elections, and in all 3 elections she gets arrested and thrown in jail. Okay? And she's making this argument. She says, hey, I support this amendment. I support Black people voting. She was a lifetime abolitionist. She wanted the end of slavery, right? She was a lifetime activist. But she doesn't want the gendered word being put into the amendment. So she opposes the amendment. She says, rewrite it without the word he, is what she makes that argument. Now, here's the deal. The people who wrote the amendment are not stupid. They put the word he in there on purpose. They said, hey, you know, maybe we're going to have to let these Negroes vote, but don't worry, we'll be able to shut up those uppity women. Right? Susan B. Anthony's not stupid. She knows that's what they're doing. This is going to become a big fight between Susan B. Anthony and Frederick Douglass, right? Frederick Douglass and Susan B. Anthony are longtime friends. They've been working for decades together. Frederick Douglass was at the Seneca Falls Convention. He was there advocating women the right to vote. Susan B. Anthony was there. Frederick Douglass was the only man to speak at the convention. The only man, right? 100 women spoke and one man, and it was him, right? And Susan B. Anthony supported him through all of this. But in this one amendment, she says, no, you have to stop. And Douglass looks at her and he says, we have to support this amendment. Douglass also is not stupid. He knows that Reconstruction is coming to an end. The South is passing it because they have a gun to their head. He knows that that gun's going to get put away pretty soon. And if that gun gets put away, the metaphorical gun gets put away, the South will never pass this amendment. So Douglass says, we have to pass this now. Women, will just give women another amendment later on. That's what happens. Women will get the vote in the 19th Amendment, right? But Susan B. Anthony will never get she will die having never voted legally, right? She fights this fight for 60 years and then dies. And she never gets the vote. She was correct. It was used against women and it was kept, and this amendment keeps women away. So Shiva, you're absolutely correct that it's men who get this vote, right? That was not, it was kind of the intention of this amendment, right? It was definitely the intention to shut down Susan B. Anthony's legal argument because she has a pretty solid legal founding. And a lot of the lawyers in the country were going like, oh, damn, this lady figured this out, right? And a bunch of the lawyers of the country are saying, oh, crap. This old lady seems to know what she's talking about. Okay, all right. That's the end of the good news for the Reconstruction. It's all bad news from here. Sorry. Okay, so on Monday we'll finish off Reconstruction. This is where we're going to get sharecropping and black codes, and we're going to get literacy tests, and we're going to get the rise of the KKK. And then on Wednesday, you guys will have your test, your last test, and then you'll have Christmas break. Normally, I hate giving you a test right before the break. Normally, I try to have like a game or something on the last day, but the way that the schedule's working, I either give you the test on Wednesday or I give you the test when we come back from Christmas break. I think we can all agree. I think we can all agree that doing the test before is better, right? Or I give it to you like as homework over the break, and that sounds horrible. I don't want to do that either, right? I don't want to give you any work over the break. So, cool. If you're all caught up, I don't want you to. I'm stopping the recording.